All right, welcome back to another episode of the Calm Collective Conversations. And today I am here with Crystal, and I'm so excited to introduce Crystal to you. She is a nurse with over 29 years of experience in multiple different arenas and uses her transition as a nurse life coach and a hypnotherapist in amazing ways. Welcome to the Calm Collective Conversations, where we explore hypnosis, nurse-led coaching, and the mind-body connection in everyday practice. I'm Christy Cowgill, nurse anesthetist, psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, and board-certified hypnotherapist. If you've ever wondered what's really driving behavior, what creates the conditions for self-healing, or how lasting change actually happens, you're in the right place. Let's get going. So I'm so excited to introduce everyone to Crystal today. Hey, Crystal, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good. I said in the intro that you have been a nurse for 29 years. So can you take us back to what first called you into nursing 29 years ago?
So long ago, I was in college and a major in biochemistry, and so I decided I was going to volunteer on the oncology floor of the hospital there because I thought maybe I'd work in the field of cancer. And a nurse oriented me on the oncology floor, and I just thought this is it. None of my family's in healthcare. I had no idea what nursing was about or healthcare really, other than just going to the doctor for checkups. And I was going to a college that didn't have a nursing school, so I had to change schools and changed my major. And luckily, I didn't know at the time that nursing school was hard to get into, so I only applied to one. And luckily, I got in and just went straight on to do that. It was a surprise change and really a wonderful decision.
Oh my goodness. I actually have known you for a little bit and I didn't know the backstory there. So it was these seeds that were planted while you were experiencing oncology, which is working with people that are living with cancer or somewhere on their cancer journey. So that was 29 years ago. And the last 14 years, you've worked in hospice and palliative care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm,
did.
I'm so curious, oncology and maybe even hospice and palliative care, what did that teach you about people that maybe most nurses or even most clinicians don't fully see?
I think working particularly the last 14 or so years, first in hospice and now palliative care, I think I really just know that people at the heart of who they are, once we can see and understand who they are, people are so good. Patients and their caregivers, it's amazing what they go through and what they have to go through. And they really just need to be seen and acknowledged for that.
Yeah,
Is really
a deep
struck
human
by
need.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to be seen and acknowledged. So I'm curious when I hear you say that's at the essence what people need. And maybe most nurses and clinicians don't fully understand that it really is just this need to be seen and acknowledged. So, was there a moment as you're thinking about your own career path, or maybe a series of moments where you really started to feel there has to be another way to help people?
I think it was a series of moments as far as coming up across the coaching and hypnosis world. I It wasn't anything I was planning on or expecting to do. I was listening to a palliative care podcast once a few years ago, and one of the doctors on there just mentioned that she did hypnosis with patients for symptom management and that it was so effective. And I'd never heard of such a thing. I had in my mind what hypnosis was, but I did not know really anything about it, but it just piqued my interest. And then I purchased a program that included a hypnosis audio, and it was so different than I thought it was going to be. And it was really remarkable just listening to the audio. And then I started to become intrigued about nurse coaching and what that was. And when I was looking into a nurse coaching training program, I actually came across your Hypnosis for Nurses program. And
Yeah.
something in me, I was just like, I need to do that. I need to do that first. And later, I got my nurse coaching certification. And I'm so glad I did. It was life changing. It was life changing for not only the way I care for patients, but for myself and for my family, my friends, my colleagues, for everyone.
Yeah. I see how your face lit up, and excuse me for sneezing there. See how your face lit up when you were talking about this, and it's not lost on me the pattern of you didn't know that you were going to end up in nursing. You had to switch colleges in order to get a nursing degree, and then by happenstance, you were listening to a podcast around a palliative care physician who was using hypnosis. I'm curious if you can recall what was happening internally for you when you decided to create this pivot for yourself towards hypnosis and nurse coaching. What was happening inside of you?
I think at that time I'd been a nurse for a very long time, and we all know healthcare is changing, but I also have been a nurse long enough to know it can be better. And I've been a lifelong learner and really believe that there is always more out there to know and to learn, and always had a drive to continue to improve the kind of nurse that I am. But something was just, again, really calling to me and so intriguing about nurse coaching and hypnosis. And I had no idea really how impactful they would both be.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you found hypnosis for nurses and started on that path. Hypnosis is one of those things that has a lot of mystery behind it. Like you mentioned, even when you're listening to that podcast, you're like, wait, how can hypnosis help? These things don't seem like they're in the same ballpark. Can you like let our listeners know, and maybe this is a question that you haven't even pondered for a little bit yourself, but what surprised you most once you actually experienced hypnosis?
You know, what really surprised me is hypnosis is just using language to guide you to access your own inner knowledge.
Yeah.
It, I think that there's a huge misconception, which I had as well, that it's mind control. And it's really just taking control of your own mind and using language in a thoughtful, compassionate, very kind way of honoring people's, again, their own agency and ability to create whatever changes they're wanting
Yeah.
or uncover what they're wanting to uncover. I just found it to be amazing and changed the learning the language and how powerful that is. I don't use hypnosis in my work right now, but it has changed the way I communicate with patients, families, my colleagues, my own family, and myself, my own internal dialogue. And it's been a game changer to not have to jump in and fix things for people. They're actually not wanting that,
Yeah.
but learning ways to communicate with them so they can be empowered to come to their own conclusions and
Yeah.
create the changes they're wanting.
What I heard you say earlier too is like what people want most that seems so simple, but we're in a complex healthcare system, but people just want to be seen and acknowledged. Those were the words that you used, which I think are so empowering, right? This is giving agency back to the actual person.
Yeah.
And you also said that hypnosis is a tool of language, right? And that you have changed the way that you talk to clients or patients at work, maybe your colleagues and even your family, because of the way that you now understand hypnosis is a language tool, right? That you're
Mhm.
not maybe doing this formal process of hypnosis at the workplace, but you've changed your language skills, right? And I
Mhm.
guess I really wanted to pause there and just take that in because I know that you and I are pretty aligned on this, that a lot of times what we can offer as hypnotists or in the hypnotherapy world or even in the coaching world is using language to give people their power back so that they
Yeah.
can see and acknowledge themselves. We're acting like as a mirror for them almost. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And because I've been in nursing for so long, when I first started learning this, I really went through a period of feeling sad in a sense, and that I was never taught this before. Like, why weren't we taught some of these basic skills that are involved in both coaching and hypnosis as nurses, but
Yeah.
also just in our everyday lives?
I
Yeah.
hear that a lot now. I'm going on my fourth year of being an instructor for hypnosis for nurses. And I hear that all the time. Like, why weren't we taught this initially? This would have actually changed so much of how I interacted with the world and even interacted with ourselves because when we learn hypnotic conversation, hypnotic tools, we actually can. What I loved about your description earlier is we can interrupt a habit. And maybe that was before we're recording, but if we could go back on that, we can interrupt our own habits. If we're having that thought, oh, it's time for me to have a glass of wine because it's after work and I need to de stress, we can interrupt that by taking some control back, some agency back, and noticing our own language. So we can communicate differently with ourselves, which gives us maybe the outcome that we desire more than
Right.
that just short term dopamine hit, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So I'm curious because I have never asked you this question, but I've pondered it myself. How did your identity shift from being a bedside nurse to somebody who facilitates change at that unconscious level, right? What was that trajectory of your identity shift from, I guess I'm going to put this in air quotes so if people are watching, right? From that traditional nurse to
Hmm.
actually a nurse that facilitates change at this deeper unconscious mind or subconscious mind level.
I think it is so empowering to give that power back to when we're talking about work, to the patients,
Yeah.
to really learn how to ask the right questions so that they can answer in a way that truly aligns with their values and goals, because different people want different things, right?
Yeah.
So when we know how to ask them questions in that open, caring, non-judgmental way that we learn how to communicate in when we learn hypnosis and coaching, then they can come to the conclusions that are right for them. It is not about what I think is right for them, because that would be foolish to think that I know what's right for them when we're talking about these really important things that we're talking about in these palliative care discussions.
Yeah.
So it has been empowering for me to be able to empower them, and so meaningful.
I'm curious if your colleagues or if your patients or if your supervisor at work has noticed any difference or have you gotten any more kudos or gold stars or anything just for changing your language protocol, if you will.
Yeah, I think so. And it's been gradual over time because I've told people what I was learning all along the way and shared a lot of that information and knowledge all along the way. So we would talk about different ways to communicate, different ways to ask questions that, again, are, I don't know if gentle, more gentle ways of asking questions, again, to allow people to answer in a way that's right for them. When I started this training, I had some cards and I would go around the office and different, especially nurses and social workers, we would practice different ways of asking questions. I created a kind of a template that people can use if they want to about how to ask these questions and in what order to again give patients and their families the best ability to come to conclusions and answer in a way that is right for them. So I think overall, there have been a lot of little changes that have led up to bigger changes. Everyone has been very supportive and nice and enthusiastic about kind of learning alongside me.
Yeah, I love that. I
Mhm.
love that you've been able to take it and actually create some tangibles, right? Here's some different thought processes. This is a way to interview clients. Here's the order of questions. Because the secret that you and I both know that maybe somebody who's not trained in hypnosis doesn't yet know is that there is a series of getting to those deeper layers of what the client really wants and desires, right? And we need to shift those questions from being something that we respond to in the conscious mind, right? With just our what we think is the right answer. When we get to in the heart, and this is also a nurse sort of thing, get to the heart of the matter. And we hear that in our language as well. Can you just get to the heart of the matter? The heart is where their deepest desires are. That's what longs to be seen and acknowledged. So when we can ask the questions, we can get into their heart and get them out of their head. And that's really more aligned with what they want, what they
Mhm.
desire. So I love that. And the other thing I know about hypnosis is oftentimes it is a more efficient way at getting to the heart of the matter. Do you find that your interviews with your patients or getting to palliative care goals, is it is it a smoother process? Is it does it take less time? What does that look like when you're talking about from like a nurse to the client interaction?
Yeah, and again, just learning some of the language things that I learned, the coaching program and the hypnosis program. I I have found that the conversations are definitely more effective, I think I would say, and more efficient. Yeah, they aren't fast conversations, of
Mhm.
course, but it's just using some of those principles again of acknowledging that they are the expert of themselves and allowing them to access their own inner knowledge to come up with the conclusions that are right for them and learning how to ask questions to bring that out can make for a thoughtful, compassionate, and productive conversation.
Yeah. And I imagine not just for the client, but also for, like you mentioned, the caregivers there. Everyone is seen and acknowledged in that space, right? Yeah.
That's cool.
All right. Maybe this will be our final question because I definitely want to have you back because I know that you also have some specialties that you like to practice in, which is menopause and sleep and habits. So I think we're going to have to get to that in another session, which people will be excited to hear about. But how do you feel like hypnosis specifically allows you to reach people in a way that traditional care sometimes couldn't?
I think when we use some of the hypnosis principles of the mind-body connection and really allowing people to feel in control and regulating their nervous system, I think that then our communication with with each other and with ourselves is really just on a whole nother level when we can get that busy brain that's always telling us why we can't do something or we shouldn't say this, shouldn't say that, when we can just allow that to rest a little bit and get to the heart of who we are and who they are, then we can really come to the conclusions and solutions that are really best for each person.
I love that. I love that. When we use hypnosis, we can come to those conclusions that are best for them and faster and more efficiently. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to chat today.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to have you back because I want to learn more. You have such a metered and thoughtful approach to everything that you do. And I'm so thankful that I have you in my circle of colleagues around the world that are doing nursing and hypnosis. So that's really cool. So thank you so much for your time, Crystal.
Thank you. Thanks for all you're doing.
You're welcome. See you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
If you're curious about hypnosis, nurse-led coaching, or exploring the Calm Collective Care team or our audio library, just visit our website at www.calmcollectivecare.com. That's Calm Collective Care, all one word. We offer individual sessions, group sessions, and our growing library of guided experiences. If this conversation sparks something for you, share it with a friend or another nurse who might benefit.